All right, everyone. I decided to do really just a live stream, not a scheduled one, just a straight up live stream. And the reason is quite obvious. The reason is because Israel just got bombed by Iran again. And so this is the biggest story out right now. We have the vice presidential debate about to happen between Walz and Vance, and obviously, the bombing of Israel that just took place is going to be really at the center of that debate. It's definitely going to be brought up. It has to be brought up because Israel is really it's in the apple of America's geopolitical eye. It's a big part of America's globalized geopolitics. So it's definitely to be a major topic. Buenos tardes, Andres Lopez. So I decided, you know what? It's best for me to do a live stream. I gathered up some notes. I gathered up some articles, really, and I highlighted some of the excerpts from these articles that I thought were quite telling. It's all about gas and oil. Well, yes, actually, gas and oil do play a huge role in this whole conflict. Why? Well, because the Strait of Hormuz, that's why. The Strait of Hormuz is right in between the UAE and Iran. And it is where much of the world's oil gets transported from. Much of the world's oil goes through the Strait of Hormuz. And Iran has a coast right there on the Strait of Hormuz, and across from the Iranian coast is the coast of the UAE, which is a major American ally. So definitely oil plays a role, ideology plays a role. It all of these things play a huge role. All of these things factor in this whole situation, this very tragic situation. Matt mixes, I'll have to listen later. Don't worry about it. This will be on my channel for you to watch later on. So if you can't watch right now, it doesn't really matter. Because this is going to be on later on anyway for you to watch and listen to. This is probably going to be a little bit over an hour. But yes, none of this really surprises me. None of this surprises me. I wasn't surprised at all by this. I woke up today and I heard, well, okay, Israel got hit. Hello, Joshua George. Israel got hit. We all knew this was going to happen. Israel is going to strike Iran. That is going to happen. Israel has to respond. The reports on how many of these Iranian ballistic missiles were launched towards Israel differs depending on the article. Some say around 180, some say around 200, some say around 250. It doesn't really matter. The Israelis say that they were able to intercept with American help. The Israelis are saying that they were able to intercept most of the missiles, but Iran is arguing otherwise, of course. Iran is saying that 80% of their missiles actually hit Israel without being intercepted. Now, again, Israel is saying, no big deal. We intercepted most of the missiles. Yes, they did hit. Some of them did hit Israel. Yes, all that happened, blah, 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 but we were able to intercept most of them. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. I don't think Israel was able to intercept as many as they would like people to think. If you look at the videos coming onto Twitter, being uploaded onto Twitter, if you look at the videos really show a pretty drastic situation. A lot of missiles hitting Israel, a lot. And I'm going to play for you guys some of those videos on this live stream just to give you guys a visual idea of what I'm talking about. And it's a tragic situation because there's really nothing we can do about it. It's just going to continue to escalate. It's not going to stop. Remember, this sort of thing happened back early this year, back in April. Iran launched 500 rockets and drones into Israel, and Israel, with the help of America and France and England and its Arab allies, were able to intercept most of them. But a number of them did hit Israel. A number of them did. And I said in the video, I did a video about it, and I said, listen, the surreal is happening. The surreal is taking place because we are so used to seeing and hearing about Israel bombing other people, but we're not used to Israel getting bombed. And I said, this is a first. Basically, this is a first. And this is something that we're going to get used to. And I said in my video, I think this was back in April, if I remember correctly. I said in my video, I said, guys, this is not going to stop. It's going to continue on. It's not going to stop. And there's going to be moments of calm. So we had a moment of calm for months. The duration of calm lasted for months. But now we're back. We're back to what we saw early this year when Israel got hit with a barrage of missiles and drones from Iran. And Israel responded to that attack. Remember, Israel responded to that attack. It wasn't a huge response. It was a very limited, very restrained response, but nonetheless, it was a response. Israel is going to respond. The Israeli government lie about numbers of missiles intercepted, 60%. They want not to scare Israeli population. Yeah, I don't really trust Israel's narrative on this because, again, like George has pointed out, they don't want people to panic, so they're saying, everything is fine, shalom, shalom, blah, blah, blah. Now, the Nevatim, Ortho Christos brings up the Nevatim air base. Let's talk about the Nevatim air base because I did some reading up on that. So I've been looking at, let's see here. I got to get my my OBS correctly coordinated. Here we go. So I looked into the Nevatim air base. Now, reports differ depending on the country from where you're getting your media from. From where it depends on the country from where you are getting your media, right? So if it's Iranian media, you're going to be getting, oh my God, you know, we really did it, guys. And then if it's Western media, it's no big deal, guys. Let's talk about how Israel is so victorious. And let's also talk about how Israel really needed the help of America and other allies to intercept most of these missiles. And let's also talk about how, you know, World War III could come upon us, you know. But hey, no big deal. Everything is fine. Blah, blah, blah. Everything's great. Okay. So this is Iranian media. Now, after this, I'm going to give you guys Western media. So that would be give you both sides. Because like I said, truth is closer to the middle, if anything, if I had to make a guesstimation. So Tasnim, this is Iranian media. Iranian missiles hit Nevatim air base in southern Israel. So here we go. Iran hit the Nevatim air base in southern Israel in a rocket attack on the country, with Tasnim news agency reporting that the base was partially destroyed in the attack. According to the Iranian Shafak NA news agency, 20 Israeli F-35 fighter jets were destroyed. Now, was it really 20 F-35s? I don't know. Could be 10, could be 15. I'm not certain. I don't know. And I'm not sure how Iran was able to determine this or calculate this. But there definitely was damage done to the Nevatim air base. So it says here that the Iranian IRIB television channel also reported that a large number of tanks were destroyed in the Nitsadam area of the Gaza Strip. Israeli media and the IDF did not confirm the information. So this is what the Iranians are saying. Fars reported that at least 80% of the missiles launched by Iran hit their targets in Israel. This is what the Western media is basically saying. So this is Al Jazeera. And it says here that Israel and its top ally, the United States, said their respective militaries worked together to shoot down most of the nearly 200 projectiles that were fired by Iran. The Israeli army said only a few hits were recorded. I don't believe that. If you look at all the videos that have come out from various different areas of Israel, it's not a few, and it's a lot of hits, and I think it's quite obvious, and I'll get to that. I'm actually amazed at the diversity of the audience right now. I'm seeing people that I've never seen in my Friday live streams. It's weird. It's like if you talk about Israel, all of a sudden you get a different type of people, and they want to talk about the end times. And we'll talk about that in a little bit here. I'm not going to talk about Bible prophecy. I'm not an expert on that, but I'll talk about what I think eventually will happen to Israel. So it says here, Israel and its top ally, the United States, said their respective militaries would work together to shoot down most of the nearly 200 projectiles that were fired by Iran. The Israeli army said only a few hits were recorded. Okay. The IRGC said later that its attack was aimed specifically at 3 military bases in the Tel Aviv area. The attack, which was accompanied by a large-scale cyber attack, also employed Iran's new Fatah hypersonic ballistic missiles for the first time. And what I read was that these missiles have the ability to hit Israel in 12 minutes. They can reach Israel in 12 minutes. Before, it was an hours long window of time for you to find shelter. Now it's 12 minutes. So this ain't looking good for Israel. It's not looking good for the Jewish state. Buenos noches a todos desde España. Well, I've been to Spain, beautiful country. I was there back in 2015. I stayed there for a number of weeks. Beautiful, beautiful country. And I wish I was in a beautiful country right now. But right now I'm talking about the end of the world. So here we go. We're not talking. Well, listen. Like I said, this is going to go on in intervals. I said this back early this year when Iran hit Israel with a barrage of strikes. I said, it's going to be tit for tat. It's going to go back and forth. There's going to be pause, and then it's going to resume. That's what we're seeing. There was an attack by Iran on Israel early this year. Iran responded. I said it's going to go back and forth. There's going to be a pause, a duration of peace, and then it's going to resume. Well, for months, we kind of forgot about what happened to Israel. You know, we kind of forgot what happened early this year with the barrage of attacks, with the exchange of attacks between Israel and Iran. And now we're getting a wake-up call. We're getting a reminder, hey, this thing is still lingering. This tension, this conflict is still lingering. Now, everyone is also talking about the election because tonight is going to be the vice presidential debate between Walz and Harris. Walz and Vance. I said Harris because Harris right now is the vice president. Got a little bit confused there. But it's going to be between Vance and Walz. Now, like I said, Israel is going to be a big central focus in this debate. The Trump administration is already the Trump administration. I'm thinking ahead of myself here. The Trump campaign team is already capitalizing on this. They're saying, "Look, Iran sees America as weak. Iran is hitting our biggest ally directly. Look how horrible this is. This is why we need to bring Trump back. This didn't happen under Trump. Blah 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 blah." So, is this going to help Trump? I think so. I think it's going to help Trump a little bit. Yes, maybe not by a huge number, but I think it's going to help Trump a little bit because people are going to think, okay, wow, we really need to get Trump in office because, oh my God, Iran is just an unleashed dog right now. It is going way out of hand, attacking Israel directly when all Israel is trying to do is just defend itself. You see, they are hypersonic missiles. Yes, that's correct. They're hypersonic missiles. That's why they're faster. The Iron Dome is designed to intercept conventional older rockets. That's correct. Yep, that's correct. And I did a video about this about 3 months ago, and I said, guys, the Iron Dome will not save Israel. Israel needs America. Israel needs its allies to intercept these missiles. The Iron Dome does not have the capacity nor the capability to withstand a major barrage of attacks from Iran, especially now that Iran is using hypersonic missiles. So it's not going to be good for Israel. This is not looking good for Israel. Now, does Iran have a nuke? From what we know, it doesn't have one yet. But eventually it will have nuclear weapons. Eventually Iran will have nuclear weapons. That is inevitable. When it does have nuclear weapons, Iran will be more bold. Because Israel is a nuclear power. Israel has nuclear weapons, which means that if things get really, really way out of hand, Israel always has that nuclear option. The nuclear option is there as a deterrence. So Israel still has the advantage, in this whole thing, because it does have the nuclear option. Once Iran gets that nuclear option, then the nuclear weapon being the great equalizer is there. It's present. It is right there in your face. So at that point, Iran and Israel, they could have a war just like Ukraine and Russia are having one right now. And Iran could say, you want to use a nuke? We got nukes too, and we'll use them. We'll obliterate Tel Aviv. You want to hit Tehran? We'll hit Tel Aviv. And is Israel going to take that chance? So it's very, very dirty. It's ominous. It is odious. It's ugly. It really is ugly. Now, Israel's defense minister, Yoav Gallant, he told Netanyahu last month, listen, Natan, we should not be going into a war in Lebanon. We should not be doing a war in Lebanon. It's not a good idea. And Yoav Gallant said, we need to have a ceasefire with Gaza, and we need to negotiate diplomatically some sort of an agreement with Hezbollah. That way we can fix the problem in the north. We got to do something here. Because Israel should not be doing a two-front war, one in Gaza, one in Lebanon. The far right in Israel was so angered by this, they wanted Yoav Gallant gone. Netanyahu threatened to fire Yoav Gallant over this issue. But Netanyahu didn't do it because he knew that if he did, all those pissed off demonstrators in Israel would be even more angered by that. Because Yoav Gallant is popular amongst the people who are opposed to Netanyahu. But in my opinion, Netanyahu should have listened to Yoav Gallant. Netanyahu should not have gone into a war in Lebanon. It's going to make things a hell of a lot uglier. And it already is making things a hell of a lot uglier. Israel assassinated Nasrallah. So as a response, now think about it. You are Iran. You got this whole Shiite chain of power, right? You have power in Syria, because Syria is controlled by Alawites, who are kind of like Shiites. And plus, there's a very large population of Shiites in Syria, a lot of support for Iran in Syria. You also have Shiite militias in Syria. And then also Iran has power in Iraq because of the strong presence of Shiites in Iraq. Iraq is a majority Shiite country, and there are a lot of Shiite militias in Iraq. So you have that going on for you. Then you have Lebanon. And in Lebanon, you got the biggest Shiite paramilitary organization in the world, which is Hezbollah. And Iran is backing Hezbollah. Hezbollah is a proxy of Iran. And for a very long time, Iran has been saying, we are with Hezbollah, we support the resistance, we are the axis of resistance, etc., etc. Israel comes along and says, we are now going to cross one of your lines. We're going to kill the leader of your main proxy, your main Shiite proxy. We're going to kill him, Hassan Nasrallah. Hassan Nasrallah has been around for a very, very long time. Very long time. And now he's dead. So yesterday, the Ayatollah Khamenei, Mr. Khamenei, he said, we're not going to directly hit Israel. We're not going to get involved directly against Israel. That's the job. He said that is the job of Hezbollah. Let Hezbollah decide what it wants to do. So you heard that and you thought, okay, Iran's not going to get involved. It's just going to be a Hezbollah versus Israel thing. We've seen this sort of thing before. I mean, Israel had a war back in 2006, so who really cares? But that's not what happened. Iran totally lied. I mean, let's be real here. Iran lied. They said, we're not going to get involved, blah, blah, blah. They said that yesterday. They got everyone thinking that they were just going to play it cool, let Hezbollah deal with it. But think about it. You are the head of the Shiite snake. You are the head of the quote-unquote axis of resistance. Are you really going to sit around and do nothing after Israel just killed one of your guys? If Iran did nothing, then the entire Shiite world would have looked at Iran and said, why the hell are we even following you? Why the hell are we even under your wing when you're not going to do anything? This is like if Russia bombed one of the Baltic countries. Let's say Russia assassinated the president of Lithuania or something. Prime Minister of Lithuania. I don't know. Regardless. Let's say that happened and America did nothing about it. The whole of NATO outside the United States would be saying, America, why the hell are we in NATO? America would have to do something to respond in order to make NATO look strong and to keep its integrity. Iran is in a similar position. Israel just killed one of Iran's guys. Iran has to respond, or else it's going to look weak to the entire Shiite world. And Iran wants to maintain the integrity of this image that it has been cultivating for a while now, and that is, we are the only country that stands up to Israel. We are better than Turkey. The Arabs are all sellouts. They're all weaklings. And these Arabs, you know, these royal Arabs, they're supposed to be the descendants. They are supposed to be the descendants of the Prophet. Blah, blah, blah. And we are Shiite Iranians. We're not even Arabs. And these Arabs are sellouts. We are the defenders of Islam. We are the defenders of the Muslims against these treacherous, violent Jews, these bloodthirsty Jews. That's the image that they are trying to project onto the world. And it's working. It's very effective because you go onto Twitter and it's like every anti-Semite, every neo-Nazi, they're all praising Iran right now. All of them. All of them. I mean, we talk about the Nazi Islamic alliance that happened when the Third Reich was running Germany. You're seeing it. You're seeing something like it right before your eyes. It's very fascinating to see. But moving on, here is an article from the New York Times. I want to make sure you guys can see the article there. The direct military strike. So the title is, "In Iran, Military Commanders Win the Day That Israel is Hit." The direct military strike on Tuesday came after senior military commanders of the Revolutionary Guards Corps convinced the country's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, that it was the only course of action if Iran wanted to appear strong, according to 3 Iranian officials. So there you go. So yesterday, Khamenei said, we're not going to do anything. And then now we're reading about how the Iranian military told Khamenei, we have to do something. Now, is this true? Did it really play out like this? I don't think so. I think they had this good cop, bad cop thing like, oh, Khamenei didn't want to do it, but then the military wanted to, and blah, blah, blah. And it's all just a way to make it look like there's actually some sort of a dissidence within the Iranian government. But I don't really believe this at all. But the Iranian military has also prepared hundreds of missiles to launch from western borders should Israel or its top ally, the United States, strike back. 2 members of the Revolutionary Guards familiar with the planning said. If the Zionist regime, this is what they said, if the Zionist regime reacts to Iran's operation, it will face more fierce attacks, said the Revolutionary Guards in a statement. The statement said the missiles had been launched to retaliate for Israel's assassination last week of Hassan Nasrallah. Now, they're saying if Israel does a response, we're going to hit him again. That's what Iran is saying. Is that going to happen? I don't know. I don't know. But what I do know is that this shit ain't going to end. Israel's going to respond. I have no doubt about that. Israel, if maybe it's happening right now, I don't know. I have to check the news. But anyone in chat want to check for me, please? Is it happening right now? Israel has to respond to this. It has to. Because if Israel does nothing, then the right wing in Israel, all the conservatives, all the religious people in Israel, they're going to say Netanyahu is weak. He's a sellout. He's this. He's garbage. And Netanyahu can't lose that. That's his people. That's the people who are getting him elected. That's the people who are keeping him in power. He has to please that constituency. If Israel attacks, which it will attack, I could be full of crap. If it doesn't, then I'm going to be shocked. But if Israel attacks, the right wing will be pleased. And the lefties in Israel are going to say, oh my God, you are escalating things to make it worse. That's what the lefties are going to be arguing. That's what the leftists are going to be arguing. And Yoav Gallant said, the defense minister of Israel, he said, guys, don't go into Lebanon. It's not a good idea. And look what's happening. You have more of an escalation, more problems for Israel. It's just, it's not looking good. It's not looking good. But, yeah, it's not looking good at all. And you're going to have moments of pause. Like I said, you're going to have a duration of pause when it feels like, okay, everything's gone back to normal. And we're going to forget about this story. This story will be forgotten, more than likely, in about 2 weeks. We're going to forget about it. It's going to be over. Okay, guys. Normalcy has kicked in, and then we're going to get another reminder. And I kid you not. I was sitting in my bed last night. I'm thinking, oh my God. I said, I hope Israel doesn't get hit tomorrow. And it happened. I don't know how my brain does this to me. I'll be like, is this going to happen? And it happens. I've had this happen to me in life numerous times. And I was thinking last night, I said, I hope Iran doesn't hit Israel. Here here we are. I think Iran have no nuclear weapons and will probably attacked by NATO. Will be probably attacked by NATO. Turkey and Sunni states will agree on that. Once Iran will be defeated, it will start a clash between Europe and Islam. Okay. Between Europe and Islam. What does that look like? The U.S. government sent aircraft carriers to the Middle East last month. Yep. Yeah. None of that surprises me. Now, Turkey. We got to talk about Turkey because Turkey is a huge player in this whole thing. Turkey, like I've said a million times, it's the second most armed country in NATO, very big U.S. ally in the Middle East after Israel. Geopolitically speaking, it could be argued that Turkey is more important than Israel because just of the sheer fact that it controls access into the Mediterranean. It controls access into the Sea of Marmara. It controls access into the Aegean Sea. I mean, Turkey, geopolitically speaking, is a very, very influential, very pertinent country. So, not long before this attack, Erdogan said Israel could attack Turkey. Yeah, he said this. And not only this, but Erdogan said that if Israel does not stop its aggression, that the only way to stop Israel is through force. Now, Erdogan has said things like this before. Erdogan has threatened to invade Israel several times. Is Erdogan going to do it? My gut feeling says no, because this is really Erdogan's last time in office. He has said already that he's going to retire. He is getting way too old for politics. And that is that. But what I will say is that Erdogan's rhetoric does definitely reflect a very, very strong feeling and mood within Turkey. There is a very strong anti-Israel sentiment in Turkey. For crying out loud, this is a country which literally denies a genocide that it committed, the Armenian genocide. And also, this is a country where Mein Kampf was a huge bestseller at one point in time. We're talking like 2006 or 7 or something like that. Mein Kampf, big bestseller. And here we are. But what Erdogan has been saying is a reflection of a huge feeling within Turkey, and that is Israel's got to go. Israel has to be destroyed. But you see, Turkey right now is not in a position to go into a full-out boots-on-the-ground war with Israel because Turkey doesn't have nuclear weapons. Turkey wants nuclear weapons. Turkey wants nuclear weapons, and Turkey inevitably will get nuclear weapons. It's going to happen. Once Turkey and Iran have nuclear weapons, then the great equalizer, that is nuclear weapons, will be at play, and they can act more confidently against Israel. Because they could say, well, Israel, if you want to bomb Ankara, or if you want to nuke Ankara or nuke Tehran, we can always just nuke you. And you're a lot smaller than us, so wouldn't take that much. And it's very interesting. So it says here, earlier, Erdogan said that Israel, obsessed with the idea of a promised land, could turn its gaze to Turkish lands after Palestine and Lebanon. Israeli aggression includes Turkey, so Ankara will counter this state terrorism with all available means. And here's the thing is, because Erdogan is saying that Israel is an aggressor and Israel must be stopped, that means that Erdogan and really the Turkish government supports what Iran just did. Turkey supports what Iran just did. It's all for it. It's not saying it, but it supports this. It's very, very obvious. So what's going to happen in the future? What's going to happen in the future, I believe, is an Iranian-Turkish alliance. They both agree that Israel must be stopped, and they are both vying for this position of being the great leaders of the Islamic world. But I think what will happen is they're going to say, let's unite against Israel. Two of us is stronger than just one Israel. And if they both get nuclear weapons, which I think they will get nuclear weapons, they're going to say, we have Israel. And it says here, this is from the Hindustan Times. It says here, let me make sure you guys can see it. Hold on. Yeah, you guys can see it. Whatever it does, Israel will be stopped sooner or later, Erdogan told the Turkish parliament at the opening of the legislative year. Erdogan said, quote, the terror and genocide Israel had carried out in Gaza had reached Lebanon and warned if not stopped, the Israeli leadership would set its sights on Turkey. I openly say that the Israeli leadership, acting with the delirium of the promised land and with a purely religious fanaticism, will set its sights on our homeland after Palestine and Lebanon. So Turkey's saying Israel's a threat to Turkey. So if they see Israel as a threat to Turkey, then eventually there's going to be some sort of conflict. Now, Ortho Christos says here that Erdogan is all hot air. I agree that Erdogan is hot air. I'm not really worried about Erdogan. I'm worried about what comes next. Erdogan has talked about joining BRICS. Erdogan has talked about joining BRICS. That is something that NATO cannot tolerate. So Erdogan is about to go. He's about to leave politics. Supposedly he's going to retire. I suspect that the American deep state, and yes, I do use that word, but I do not use it vainly or vaguely. I believe that the American deep state is going to try to get a Kemalist to control Turkey, because the Kemalists historically have always been pro-Western. And during the Gladio operation of the Cold War, NATO was using Kemalists as proxies. Hardcore, racist, ultra-nationalistic Turks. Israel knew that Tehran was going to retaliate and refused to sue for peace. Not surprised if Ankara joins the coalition. Yeah. There's going to be a Turkish-Iranian alliance. It's going to happen. They're both very much so in agreement against Israel. They're both regional powerhouses. And they have both talked about hitting Israel. They've both talked about this. So, and Erdogan has stated many times, yeah, we should hit Israel. Now, Iran talked for years. Iran was talking about hitting Israel decades ago. They were talking about hitting Israel. Ahmadinejad back in the early 2000s was talking about hitting Israel. That was all hot air. But now we're seeing that it's not hot air. I think the same thing can be said about Turkey. I think in the future, we're going to see that it's not hot air. We're going to see that it's not hot air. Like I said, Turkey wants to revive its empire. And if you're going to revive an empire, if you're going to revive the Ottoman Empire, Turkish power, then, well, what was a part of the Ottoman Empire? Palestine. Palestine was a part of the Ottoman Empire. So if you're going to revive your power, then you're going to hit Israel. And remember, Israel and Egypt and Greece and Cyprus, they all have this mutual agreement on respecting each other's maritime territories for the acquisition of natural gas. Israel, Egypt, Cyprus, Greece, these Eastern Mediterranean countries, they all have natural gas now. And they're all sort of respecting each other's territories where there is all this natural gas. Not Turkey. And Egypt right now is terrified of Turkey. Egypt is terrified of Turkey for several reasons. One thing, Egypt has natural gas. Turkey has been encroaching itself on the maritime territory of Greece. It has been acting aggressively towards the Greeks. This scares the Egyptians. This scares the Israelis. Even if you look at Turkish-Israeli relations, you find these tensions. Those tensions are there for a reason. And what is right next to Israel? What's right next to Israel is Cyprus. And who controls the Turkish part of Cyprus? People think, oh, Cyprus, it's all Greece. part of Cyprus is completely Turkish, and it's a proxy of Turkey, and it's right next to Israel, right across a small time piece of maritime territory. That's it. Turkey could use Cyprus as a point from which to attack Israel. And remember, there is a verse in the Bible, ships from Chittim, not ships of Chittim. Chittim is Cyprus. Ships from Chittim, ships from Cyprus. So ships from Cyprus will come to attack Israel. That sounds like the Turkish Navy. And Turkey has been expanding the presence of its Navy. Why is that? Because it wants to revive its power. That's the bottom line. It wants to revive its power. Turkey is a major military power. It has a much bigger military force than Israel does. So if Turkey gets nuclear weapons and there's a war between Israel and Turkey, Israel is done. Israel's done. And if Iran and Turkey join forces, Israel's definitely done. Yeah, it's in the Bible. It's in the ships of Chittim or ships from Chittim. It's in the book of Daniel. Daniel chapter 11, verse 30. Ships from Chittim. Ships from Chittim. Or ships of Chittim, actually. But still, Turkey right now is expanding its naval power. It used to be that Turkey would send its ships and those ships would just come right back in the same day and the sailors would go home. Now these ships are staying in certain locations for days. It's no longer the same policy. Why is Turkey changing its policy on its Navy? Why is Turkey advancing its Navy? Why does Turkey have soldiers in Iraq, soldiers in Syria, soldiers in Africa, in Libya? Why? Because it's expanding its influence. It's expanding its hegemony. It's a major power. So, and the fact that Turkey wants to revive its empire, it's pretty telling. Pretty telling. How are you going to revive the Ottoman Empire with Israel in the way? It's like Russia. There's inevitably going to be a clash between Russia and Turkey. Why? Because, well, if Russia wants to revive Tsardom and Turkey wants to revive its ancient power, then, well, it's not really that ancient. It fell in the First World War. But still, if Turkey wants to revive its power, I mean, these are two powerhouses that have antithetical aspirations. And those antithetical aspirations will eventually lead to conflict. That's why you hear about Turkish and Russian soldiers killing each other in Syria. That's not by accident. That's why back in 2020, February of 2020, I believe, the Russian and Syrian air forces killed dozens of Turkish soldiers. That's not by accident. They actually have an interest in expanding hegemony, expanding their presence. So it's a big ass mess, guys. It's just a big ass mess. Turkey will get Insterlink air-based nuclear weapons. Yeah. I can totally see that happening. Absolutely. The thing is that both Turkey and Iran are vying to appear as the leaders of the Islamic world, so I believe there is a conflict of interest there that does not seem to justify a future alliance. You may be right, but I don't know. I've been hearing about a lot more cooperation between the two. I've been hearing a lot more about deepening ties between the two countries. For example, just yesterday, Iran and Turkey, the chief bankers of both Iran and Turkey had a meeting talking about boosting financial ties. And I can show you guys that if you want. Let's look at that real quick. Here we go. I mean, right there. Iran, Turkey chief bankers exchange views on boosting financial ties. And by the way, Iran and Turkey, religiously, they're not too different. People say, oh, one's Shiite, one's Sunni, but Turkey is mainly Sufi. And the Sufis don't mind Shiaism. They don't mind revering Ali like the Shiites do. So I don't really see a huge religious conflict of interest here. But just to give you guys just to give you guys an idea of what I'm talking about, I'm gonna do this one last thing, and then I'm gonna bounce. There was a mass shooting, by the way, in Israel, like literally hours before Israel got bombed. There were 2 Muslim terrorists that opened fire, and they killed, I want to say, 8 people. It's just horrific. It's just not going to stop. And the whole world, the thing is that the whole world has to suffer. The whole world has to get involved in this whole thing. I don't know why. It just drives me crazy. But let's look at some videos here. The Shiite is about to hit the fan. Yeah, absolutely. Guys, it's gonna happen. I'm sorry. And the thing is that Israel, see, you're gonna have Holocaust 2.0. That's the thing. You're gonna have Holocaust 2.0. And I think, and I've said this before, I think Israel is going to be turned into one big concentration camp. That's my opinion. All right, let's give this a watch. These are obviously direct hits. This doesn't look like, oh, just a few missiles. That's not just a few missiles. Here's some more. This doesn't look like a few. This looks like a lot more than a few. There's another one. There's 2 more. There's another one. This is not a few, guys. Why doesn't Turkey allow flights to Moscow? That's a good question, because Turkey is in no position to be in a war with Russia right now. They are still maintaining diplomatic ties. Russia literally butchered dozens of Turkish soldiers in Syria back in February of 2020. You know what Turkey did about it? Absolutely nothing. And vice versa. Turkey has killed Russians. Turkey shot down a Russian plane, killed a bunch of Russians. You know what Russia did about it? Nothing. So you have these violent exchanges which show aggression, but they're not allowing it to escalate to the point where it's a serious war. Because, listen, they're enemies. They're historical enemies. But they're not unhinged. They're not so reckless to the point where they're just going to start a war. Russia right now can't have a war with Turkey because it would be a 2-front war. It would force Russia to be above capacity. It just would be too much for Russia. Russia right now is in a serious war. Literally hundreds of thousands of Russians have been killed and injured. It's very bad for Russia. Russia right now, I don't think, is in a position to have a major 2-front conflict. Turkey right now is still dealing with... Turkey right now is working on building itself, building its strength, building its hegemony. So it has influence in the South Caucasus, North Africa. It has influence in Sudan, Somalia, Syria, Iraq. So that's what's happening right now. It's not going to say, okay, no flights to Russia, screw that, blah, blah, blah. Turkey is still buying stuff from Russia. Turkey is still a major importer of Russian goods. Turkey is still getting natural gas from Russia. So right now, we're not at the stage of World War III. Everyone thinks like something happens, oh my God, World War III is going to happen. I could be wrong, but I don't think we're at the stage right now. But it's going to take time. It's going to take time. Remember, listen, before, what was it? Before the outbreak of, I think it was before the outbreak of World War I. Let me just make sure real quick. Britain and Germany, trade partners. Yeah, okay, I was correct. Before the outbreak of World War I, Britain and Germany were huge trading partners. Britain was literally Germany's largest trading partner before the outbreak of World War I. That did not mean that they weren't going to have a war. And I could have said, listen, Britain and Germany are going to have a war. And you would say, no. Germany is a huge trading partner, blah, 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 blah. That doesn't stop war. So right now they're maintaining diplomatic ties. That does not mean they're not going to have a war. I would encourage people not to look at trade relations as a sign that two countries are always going to have peace. It's just not there. You have to look at history. What is the history of these countries? The history of Russia and Turkey is animosity. There's a lot of war there. There were a lot of wars between Turkey, or the Ottoman Empire, I should say, and Russia. And Russia won all of them. So there's a lot of bad blood there. There's a large history of violence there, is what I would say. But let's go back to these videos. I want to show you guys some more of these videos. I think I showed you. Did I show you this one already? Yeah, here's some more of this barrage of hell. Oh, never mind. Yeah, this looks like more than a few. This looks like more than a few.
يا أولاد مطرفة امرأة يا رب يا الله.
Boom. This is more than a few. Let's look at some more here. This looks like more than a few. So, this is not looking good for Israel. Israel is going to respond. I can just tell you that right now off the bat. I don't even have to research it. Israel's going to respond. It has to. It has to, or else it's just going to look weak. So there's going to be a response from Israel. Is there going to be a pause of peace after that? More than likely, there's going to be some duration of peace. Maybe not right after that, but eventually there more than likely will be a duration of peace. And then it's going to come back. It's going to come in intervals. It's going to go on and off, on and off, on and off. And then eventually what's going to happen is that it's going to escalate to the point where it's going to be a full-on war. And Israel is going to become one giant concentration camp. The Holocaust is going to resume. And I think Israel will be destroyed. Not completely, but it's going to be immensely, immensely devastated. I think Turkey will also join in eventually. Definitely not hypersonics. Okay, well, Iran was using the Fatah missile. And the Fatah 2. Let's see, the Fatah 2. Is it hypersonic? I don't know. I think it is hypersonic. Yeah, it's technically a hypersonic missile. And I see a lot of missiles on the videos just hitting Israel. I don't see them really getting intercepted. I don't think all of them were hypersonic, but I think some of them definitely were hypersonic. Yeah, I agree with Ortho Christos there. Israel will use its nukes before being holocausted again. But here's the thing. Israel more than likely is going to be using nuclear weapons. All right. They can hit Tehran and some other areas of Iran. But Iran's a massive-ass country. Iran will still have plenty of space Turkey is a massive ass country with a much larger population than Israel's. So if Israel and Iran both get nuclear weapons, sure, Israel could nuke a few of them. But it's not going to have the capacity to wipe out these countries. Those countries will still have the capacity to do a counter nuclear strike on Israel. Israel has more that nuclear weapons, they dark matter weapons, and okay. It's going to be very ugly, and sadly, the whole world has to get pulled into this nonsense. I think what eventually will happen is America is going to say, Israel, we're not going to get involved, and Israel is going to be left by itself. If Israel is left by itself, it's going to be Holocaust 2.0. The initial missiles were ballistic and decoys for saturation purposes. The next ones that hit the targets were 100% hypersonic. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Iran did a similar strategy back early this year. It overwhelmed Israel's Iron Dome with just weak stuff, and then that distracted the Iron Dome so that it could hit Israel with the more serious strikes. So yeah, I agree. I'm not really an expert on this stuff, but I do agree with your assessment there, because I heard the same thing about this one, that Iran just distracted the Iron Dome and then hit him with the hypersonic stuff, with the serious stuff. And the thing is that the Iron Dome is immensely overrated. I did a video about this about 3 months ago, and basically this researcher, who is an expert on this sort of technology, he studied a lot about Israel's Iron Dome, and he noticed that while Hamas launched thousands upon thousands of rockets over the years, the Iron Dome was not able to intercept all of them. Now, Hamas's rockets are bottom of the barrel. They're not very advanced. So while a lot of Hamas's rockets have hit Israel, they weren't serious. But the fact is that the Iron Dome was not able to intercept all of Hamas's rockets over the years. So if the Iron Dome is not able to intercept a barrage of rocket fire from Hamas, then what happens when Iran does a serious barrage against Israel, to the point where it has a mix of hypersonic missiles with nuclear bombs? I'm not an expert on this stuff. I don't know all the correct terminology, but you understand what I'm trying to say. What happens if Iran overwhelms Israel's Iron Dome with a barrage of rockets, missiles, and then nuclear weapons in the midst of all that? It's going to be very ugly. I think the U.S. will support Israel with weapons. I don't think America is going to be sending troops into Israel, no. Yeah, like you said, it's not popular at all. Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. There's so many people online saying, I'm not going to send my kids to die for Israel. And I agree with them. You know, who wants your kids to go? You raised these kids all your life, or not all your life, but you raised these kids for decades, and then they're going to go die in some war because some Semites can't get along with each other. It's just crazy to me. What happens is what we saw tonight. Exactly. Okay. The fact is that the Iron Dome was not able to get all the missiles, and a good number of them hit Israel. That is a fact. It's not without America. Imagine if America doesn't help Israel. Imagine if Israel doesn't have the help of America or its other allies. It's just not going to look good at all. It's not going to look good. How long have I been streaming for? 54 minutes. Okay. The debate will be happening in about 2 hours. So I'll probably do a video, give you my thoughts on that debate. And I know for certain that Israel will be a top topic of that debate. A very top topic. So, yeah. Do you think Iran have nuclear weapons in secrecy? Maybe. I don't know. From what I understand, they don't have a nuclear weapon right now. But maybe they do. I don't know. There's a lot of secrecy going on. I'm not entirely certain. But, even in the Bible, it talks about Israel being destroyed. It talks about only 1/3 of Israel being left as a remnant, and they're going to cry out for their Messiah. So that's going to happen. There's going to be another Holocaust of the Jews. It's going to happen. Iran has nuclear weapons. So if Iran has nuclear weapons already, then, there's not much stopping a full-out escalation, a serious escalation. So that's my opinion. My opinion, guys. But we'll see what happens. I think there's going to be a moment or a duration of calm, and then we're going to go right back to this bullshit. Modern Mach missiles can reach up to 27. Definitely all missiles over Mach 7 are hypersonic. Even those are hard to take down with conventional systems. So imagine if we were talking about Mach 10. Yeah. Iran has 20 warheads. How do you know that? Can you send me a link? Why do you like to connect modern-day Israel with the biblical one? Well, they're not the same thing, and I'm not equating the two. There is an Israel, a physical, fleshy Israel, and then there is a spiritual Israel, which is the ultimate Israel. There is a verse in the book of Numbers where it says, Eber will be destroyed and Israel will prevail. Eber is the Hebrews, the fleshy Israel. Israel will prevail. That is the spiritual Israel. There's Jerusalem on earth and there's the Jerusalem on high. And it tells us in Zechariah that 1/3 of the people in Israel will be the last of the survivors. The will be the remnant. If you look at history, historically, ancient Israel was pretty much where the Jews are today. So that's why I connect. I don't equate the two, but that's why I still bring up physical Israel, if that makes sense. What's Russia's future role? Well, they're dealing with Ukraine right now. And that thing's not going to end anytime soon. I think there's going to be some kind of a ceasefire agreement. I think the Russians and the Ukrainians are seriously just waiting for they're waiting for the election. And I think if Trump wins, Trump will have a better shot at getting the Ukrainians and the Russians to stop killing each other. So I think there's going to be a ceasefire between the Russians and the Ukrainians. During that ceasefire, the Russians and the Ukrainians are going to be working on strengthening themselves. The Russians will be working on getting rid of all of the issues that its military has, logistic issues, issues with coordination, things of that sort. The Europeans are going to be working on strengthening the Ukrainians, giving the Ukrainians lots of weapons to refortify itself, reinvigorate itself for the next time that it fights the Russians. The Russians are currently in Syria. If the Turks begin to expand more and more to the point where it begins to conflict with Russia's interest, because Russia does have a port in Syria that's very important for it, geopolitically speaking. So it's very possible that the Turks and the Russians will have a conflict in Syria. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. I think there's going to be a conflict between the Russians and the Turks in the Middle East, and that could boil over into Israel. We do not lead World War III. You're absolutely right, Cesar. I completely agree. I don't like how everything that happens in the Middle East somehow has to affect us, and that's the consequence of living in the globalized world that we live in. Everything is just so interconnected. This happens over here, it affects the prices over here. Why? Because we import stuff from that country and blah blah blah. Everything, or trade routes are hindered in some way. I mean, everything affects us in this globalized economy, and this is why I kind of agree with the isolationists when they say, listen, let's just become independent. And I wish America became independent economically, materially, food-wise, agriculturally. I wish America just became independent. America has everything. America has everything. That's the thing. Yeah. Yeah, the Russian and Ukraine war is not gonna end. But I think eventually there's gonna be some kind of a ceasefire agreement. Both sides are going to start using that time to rearm and recoordinate and smooth out any edges that they have, smooth out any rough edges that they have. It's going to go right back. And eventually what will happen is the Germans will get involved. Because the Americans have already said, listen, Germany, we need you to take care of this whole Ukraine thing for us, because we're not going to be doing all the heavy lifting all the time. I mean, America can be completely self-reliant. And if America was self-reliant, we wouldn't be so worried about what happens in other countries. But because we're so self-reliant, we're so reliant on oil from Saudi Arabia, then that Strait of Hormuz is the biggest deal for us, because we get so much oil from Saudi Arabia. So if anything happens in the Arab Gulf, we are on edge over it because of the Strait of Hormuz, because of the oil. If we got our own oil, if we drilled for our own oil, and we got our own oil from Texas and Alaska, and we wouldn't care. And that's the way it should be, in my opinion. You have these Semitic lunatics over there in the Middle East, and they can't get along, and they're just always killing each other. And the whole world has to get pulled into this Middle Eastern insane asylum. It's just, the whole thing drives me crazy. You just wish the Middle East stayed Christian. If the entirety of the Middle East stayed Christian, yes, it would be much better for the rest of the world. I agree. And that's another thing. Speaking of Christians in the Middle East, I want to say this one last thought, and then I got to get going here. You have refugees from southern Lebanon moving up to northern Lebanon. And do you know who doesn't like that? The Maronites do. Most of northern Lebanon is Maronite. Maronites are Lebanese Catholics. Problem with the Lebanese Catholics is that they can be very racist. I'm not saying that because I read it in a book. I'm saying it because I've actually seen it myself firsthand. They don't like people who aren't really Maronites. They don't like other Middle Eastern people that much. They especially do not like Palestinians. And the Maronites aren't really treating the southern refugees that nicely. So I think this could cause serious ethnic tensions. And if it causes serious ethnic tensions between the northern Christians and the more Shiite Southerners, then perhaps Israel will say, let's arm and let's back the Maronites against these southern Lebanese, and let's have a little ethnic war in Lebanon again. And just keep Lebanon weak. Keep Lebanon divided. And if that happens, then Hezbollah will get involved. And Hezbollah would fight the Maronites. And the Maronites will lose in such a case. So, another Sabra and Shatila, that's correct. Because back in the 70s, there was a war between the Muslims and the Maronites. What happened was a Maronite was found dead. They said it was a Muslim who killed them. So the Maronites decided that they were going to have a little massacre. So the Maronites said, okay, let's put checkpoints in Beirut. Stop all the Muslims who drive close to the checkpoint. Doesn't matter if the wives and kids are in the car. You take the father out of the car, you slit his throat in front of the family. This was the policy that the Maronites had. So the Muslims got wind of this. They said, they're doing what to our people? Okay, we're going to do the same thing. So the Muslims in Beirut, they began to set up checkpoints. And if Maronites stopped at the checkpoints, at their roadblocks, they would pull the father out of the house and they would slit his throat. The father out of the car and slit his throat. And this was going on back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And all in all, hundreds of people were killed in this manner. Eventually, this civil war culminated into one of the most horrendous massacres to have ever taken place in the 21st century, or the 20th century, late 20th century. And that is the Sabra and Shatila massacre, in which the Maronites for 3 days went into a rampage and butchered thousands of Palestinian people in just a matter of 3 days. Israeli soldiers were surrounding the camp. They were making sure that people couldn't escape. And the Israelis wanted it to happen, and they oversaw it, and they were behind the curtains the entire time. That could happen again. The Maronites, again, could get support from Israel, and then one day you'll see in the news Maronite Christians slitting the throats of Shiites or Syrian refugees. It's a nightmare. The Middle East is a giant loon bin. It's a giant insane asylum. It's so crazy. My father wanted nothing to do with it anymore, and my father wanted me to have nothing to do with the Semitic world, to the point where my father refused to speak to me in Arabic, and that's why I only speak English. I always find it funny when right-wingers tell me to go back to the Middle East, or to go back to where I came from. Where is that? Oakland? That's where I was born. Am I going to go back to where I don't even speak Arabic? English is my language. The American dialect of English is my language. I have roots solely in the United States. Of course, my parents came from different countries, but America is pretty much all I know as far as countries go. So, people say, but my father wanted me to have nothing to do with the Middle East, because that's how crazy the Middle East is. And I remember when I first became Catholic back in 2013, I started to go to the Maronite church because the Western church was way too weird for me. And I decided to go to the Maronite church, and I thought, it's a Middle Eastern church. It can't be that bad. Sure, maybe there was some tensions between the Maronites and the Palestinians, but that's all done away with. That's all in the past. So I was going to this church, and I was just going to Mass every Sunday, and all in all, I went to Mass there for about 5 or 6 months. My last day at the Maronite church before I left, this is what got me to leave the Maronite church. They said there's going to be an event for young people, so people in their 20s, people in their teens. So I was in my 20s at that time. I was about 22, 23 years old at that time. So I thought, okay, I'm going to go to this youth event. So I went to this youth event. Everyone there is Middle Eastern. We all look alike. We all look similar. And some people started talking to me. Some girls started talking to me, say, hey, where are you from? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine. And this bishop was there, I remember. Archbishop Abdullah Elias. Abdullah Elias is his name. You can look him up. And I remember he sat next to me. And then like 2 or 3 other priests sat next to me as well. And I was at a table, it wasn't a line of chairs. And I remember one of them asked me, where are you from? And I said, oh, I'm from California. And they looked at me and they said, one guy said, this was a priest asking me, where are you really from? And they knew that I wasn't Lebanese. They just didn't know. I mean, they knew that I wasn't Lebanese. They wanted to know where I was from. And it's like, what the hell? They're so tribalistic. And it's just a mental illness. It's a Middle Eastern mental illness. There's a lot of good things in the Middle East, a lot of hospitality. Hospitality is their biggest thing. But at the same time, the Middle East is nowhere near as bad as Africa. I'll tell you that right now. Africa is like the worst. The Middle East is way better than Africa for the most part. But nonetheless, there is this insidious dysfunction that is always lingering underneath everything. And there are these fault lines in the Middle East. And when you step on those fault lines, the Middle East becomes just as bad as Africa. It can be just as bad as a Ugandan genocide. I mean, it's horrendous. It's absolutely horrendous. And all that shit that we read about in the 70s, all that stuff that we read about that took place in the 70s and in the 80s, the Lebanese Civil War, Sabra and Shatila, all that's going to come back, I think. Yeah, African cuisine is nasty. But it's all dysfunction, guys. All of it is dysfunction. It's evil. It's demonic. It's satanic. It's there. That's the thing. It's there. And you have tensions between Ukrainians and Russians. Tensions between Maronites and Shiites. Tension between Jews and everyone else in the Middle East. So it's not going to look good. It's ugly. It's going to be very ugly. It's going to be very ugly. Let's see here. So we're just going to wait for the response that Israel's going to do. Israel is going to respond. How are they going to respond? I'm not sure. Could be a limited response. But it's going to be something either comparable to or worse than what Iran did to Israel. That's my guess. There's going to be a response, and then is Iran going to respond back? Who knows? Who knows? We have yet to see. But anyway, this ain't going to end. It's not going to end. There's going to be intervals of peace. There's going to be pause. It's going to go back and forth. But this ain't going to end, guys. Yeah. So anyway, that's my middle of the week live stream that I don't really do, but I had to do it because this is such a big event. And we're going to have the airstrikes. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's totally likely. Yeah. They have to. It's going to be airstrikes, of course. But we had the debate. The vice presidential debate is going to be happening in about an hour and a half. So we're going to watch that. I don't know. Maybe I should live stream it. I don't know. But it might be pretty boring. But I'll more than likely give my take on it if I find something in the debate that pertains to my my area of interest. Didn't they get some fighter jets shot down? What are you referring to exactly? I think Iran claims that it has destroyed numerous Israeli fighter jets by ground to air missiles. Tampon Tim Walls, yeah. Absolutely. I actually have like 3 or 4 videos for me to put up on YouTube, and I was going to upload one of them today. In fact, I already uploaded it. It's just in private. I need to make it public, and I appreciate that, Joshua. But I was like, okay, it's a video on Saving Private Ryan, the movie, and why it's a masterpiece. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna make this public tomorrow. And I'm thinking, man, if I make this video public, everyone's gonna be like, what are you talking about, man? World War III is about to break out. What are you talking about, Saving Private Ryan? But it's not just about Saving Private Ryan. It's also about the future and all that. I love to tie in films with current events. I think that's fascinating. Always a fascinating topic. People can be so evil. Absolutely. Yeah. Very, very evil. Anyway, been streaming for an hour and 13 minutes, so I think that's good enough. All right, guys. I'll talk to you later. I'll more than likely give you guys a video showing my take on the debate. So Ortho Crystal says, make it public. Man, it would feel so awkward. Like World War III is going to break out in the future, but here's a video on Saving Private Ryan, but damn it, the show must go on. I got like 4 videos for you guys. I got one on Saving Private Ryan. I have another one on the dichotomy of good and evil, basically the whole thing with good versus evil and some of the intricacies of that kind of confuses people. And then I have another video on my thoughts on the 100 Years' War. Like, Ted, World War III is about to break out. Who gives a shit about the 100 Years' War? But it is a fascinating video, and I do tie in current events, and I tie in modern-day society with it, so it's not just about history. Again, I don't like talking about just history. I love talking about history in light of the modern day. And then I have another video on the crucifixion of Christ and the greater spiritual significance around that. So I got a bunch of videos for you guys that I haven't put up yet. I've been working more on editing, so it takes longer to put videos out. It takes longer to put videos out, but just the whole capriciousness of life that we have to deal with really, really gets me sometimes. And so sometimes I think, okay, no one's going to care about this video because everything's just breaking down around us. But eventually we're going to have some calm. And then we're going to forget about this story. And then we're going to get reminded of it again. It's Elamites versus Hebrews. Elamites versus Israel. It's the Semitic world at it again, destroying itself like it always does. And I really can't stand it. This was a great stream. I really appreciate that, Ortho. I really did it not out of the blue, but I just did it with very little preparation. And I wasn't planning on doing this stream today, but here we are. But I really appreciate that, sir. I really do try. Anyway, hope you guys have enjoyed this stream. I'm glad that you guys have enjoyed this stream, and I will see you soon. We are in a very crazy and chaotic world, but I will see you soon. God bless y'all. Be well. You guys just heard some theology. Thank you very much, Joshua, for that. God bless you guys.